I am Coach Latrea Russ. I am your disability empowerment coach, speaker, and published author. And what I do is I work with young children and adults who have disabilities. I help parents navigate through the journey of understanding what it means to have a disability. I also work with young children and help them to understand what it means to have a disability and understand that because they have a disability, it doesn't make them any less different or any different in any way, shape, or form. I got into this because I myself have a disability. So as a child, I could understand firsthand what it feels like or what it looks like as a child to have a disability and the things that children go through having a disability, as well as I'm also a parent of a child that has a disability. So I understand from the parent perspective as well of trying to navigate through resources, trying to navigate and understand what this disability means as it relates to my child. How can I help my child? What can I do to better my child's quality of life? What are the resources? How can I help my child go through life or deal with life circumstances? Another thing I also do is I also help prepare young adults that are getting ready to venture out on their own and they happen to have a disability. I tell parents all the time, there's going to come a point in time when you're not going to be here. So we have to prepare our children as though you're not going to live forever. We have to prepare our children as though there's going to come a point in time when they're going to be on their own. And they're going to have to know how to navigate through life. My greatest setbacks, I would say, has been being in the foster care system. My mom was addicted to drugs. She was addicted to crack. My dad was an alcoholic. So that made my life tumultuous upon itself. And then later on being put into the foster care system. Now, being a child with a disability on top of being in the foster care system was a very, very difficult time in my life because I already had what some would perceive as one strike against me because I had a disability. But then being uprooted from my family and my home to be put in a system with people that are supposed to take care of you and supposed to do the right thing by you, but that doesn't necessarily always happen. So through those experiences, I learned a lot about myself and I learned a lot about who I was and what society said I was capable of. Now, if we listen to what society says that we're capable of, as a person with a disability, we're not really capable of too much. So as I was going through this journey of learning who Latrea is and what is Latrea's purpose on this earth, I had to go through a lot of different bumps and roads. I had to go through a lot of different journeys. I had to go through a lot of different valleys and peaks where I had to learn to discover that my identity is not based on my disability. My identity is based on who God called me to be. I have learned a lot of lessons. I have learned lessons that have shaped me, that have molded me, that have created me, that allowed me to be the person that I am today. But one of the most unique lessons that I have to say that I have learned is to be authentic to yourself. No matter what that means, no matter what that looks like, be authentic to yourself. And that is one lesson that I try to teach my daughter, is to be authentic to yourself. Because no, not everybody's going to like you. Not everybody is going to understand you. Not everybody is going to agree with you and agree with the way that you move. And that's okay. That is all right because God created you specifically to be who and what He created you to be. So be authentic to yourself. Whatever you like, that's what you like. Whatever you want to do, that's what you do. Don't let anybody else determine who and what you are, who and what you were meant to be, and how you're supposed to move in this world. We were all created different. We were all created to be something special and unique. We were all created to be authentic. So stop denying yourself. Be who you were created to be. Be that authentic person that God has called you to be. Stop being afraid. Stop being scared. Stop being ashamed. So what? You have a disability. So what? You don't look like everybody else. So what? Find your own true authenticity and rock with that. And don't let anybody tell you any different. Don't let anybody sway you any different, no matter what the circumstances is. I don't care what everybody else is doing. I don't care how everybody else is moving. You need to move the way that you know that you were called to move. You need to move the way that you know God has called you to move. You need to do the things that you know that you're supposed to be doing on this journey called life. Don't let, and a lot of times we let society and we let, people around us and naysayers stop us and prevent us from being who we know we're supposed to be. Just because it doesn't work with everybody else. Don't stop. Time out for that. Stop paying attention to stuff like that. Be exactly who you were authentically called to be. No apologies. If I could go back and talk to my 21-year-old self, what would I tell her? Interesting question. Because I remember how I was at 21, and yeah, it was a mess. It was a mess, a total mess. I was lost and confused. I didn't know who I was. But then again, like I said, what 21-year-old knows who they are at 21? That's the time that you're supposed to be figuring it all out and going through life and trying to work this thing called life out. So if I could go back and tell what I would tell my 21-year-old self, is be authentic. I think that's the most important thing that I could tell my 21-year-old self, is be authentic. Because I spent so many years running from who I was, running from the woman that God was trying to create in me, running from the person that he was calling me to be, because it wasn't like everybody else. I didn't look like everybody else. I didn't talk like everybody else. I didn't act like everybody else. So I felt like that was what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to act like everybody else, talk like everybody else, and be like everybody else. But since I wasn't, I turned myself inside out, upside down. I wasted so many years trying to be like everybody else, trying to fit into this mold of what society says normal is. Let me tell you something. There is no such thing as normal. There is no such thing as average. There's no such thing. Yes, these words exist, but what do they really mean? I would tell myself to, at all costs, be authentic to who you are and the person that God created in you. Don't let anybody steer you wrong. Don't let anybody steer you away. Be authentic, even when it hurts, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it doesn't feel good. Be yourself unapologetically. Learn to be who you are called to be, even when it's scary. Because there's going to be some times when it's going to be scary. So even when it's scary, do it anyway. So what's next for me? Interesting question. What's next for me? Well, I am actually in the process of rebranding my company, More Than My Disability, to work, again, like I said, more with younger children. Now, when I say younger children, I mean the ages of maybe 3 to 6, and their parents. I want to create an environment where they feel comfortable in coming to me and talking about what it's like to deal with their child's disability. How can I help them? How can I provide resources? And I want to do this in a community that is not touched. I want to do this in a community that is not populated a lot. Like, we see these different organizations in, the prevalent communities, the affluent communities, the communities that have the money, and so on and so forth. But we do not see a lot of these programs in what you would consider your rural communities or what you would consider your urban communities. And these communities need resources and help just like any other community. And they should not suffer because they can't afford the resources. Their children should not suffer because they can't afford the resources. Their children should not miss out on needed therapy, needed any resources that is needed in that community. They should not suffer or miss out because they don't have the resources or they don't have the monetary means to make these things happen. And I feel like that is what God has called me to. God did not call me to this business to make money. Of course, He told me, if I do it His way, I'm always going to be blessed. The Lord told me in the beginning of this, if I do it His way, I'm always going to be blessed. So this business is not about making money for me, but it's about blessing the community. It's about blessing His people. It's about doing what I can do to give back to His people. And that is what More Than My Disability is about. It's about blessing God's people and showing them there's another way. You don't have to have an affluent amount of money. You don't have to live in certain neighborhoods or certain places to be what God has called you to be and to do the things that God has called you to do. I want to use myself as an example. I want other children to see me as a person with a disability and say, wow, she has a disability and she did it, so I have a disability and I can be whatever I want to be. And just like she was whatever she wanted to be, I can be whatever I want to be. And that is what I plan to go on to do. Well, people choose to work with me because, as I said in previous episodes, I have a first-hand understanding of what it's like to be a child with a disability. I was a child with a disability. And I understand from the child's perspective of what that looks like, what that feels like. And a lot of times, children don't have the words or the cognitive ability to be able to express what they're feeling in the moment. They don't have the cognitive ability or the word to express what it feels like to go to school and get picked on, or what it feels like to feel ostracized, or what it feels like to understand that you don't learn like everyone else, what it feels like to go through these things day to day. And I have a first-hand experience because I was that child. I was that child that didn't understand disability. I was that child that didn't know why nobody wanted to hold my hand because I looked different. Nobody wanted to play with me because I looked different. I understood what that means. And no, not taking anything away from parents, but if you've never walked that road, then you would never understand what that feels like. Now, on the flip side of that, as a parent, I have a child that has a disability, and I understand what it means to go up to the school and fight for my child. I understand what it means to go up to the school and talk to teachers about what my child needs and her not getting those accommodations. Going to the school board, going to the principal, and explaining to them that my child has a disability, and because of this disability, this is what my child needs. I understand the frustration of dealing with teachers and dealing with principals that just don't understand. They just plain don't get it. And by me having both of those perspectives allows both the child and the parent to feel comfortable working with me because I know what I'm talking about. I've been through it. It's hard to help somebody through something if you've never been through it. It's hard to walk through a door that you've never been through. You can't help somebody else in a struggle that you have no idea about. You can't help somebody maneuver through something that you've never had to maneuver through. So I think I bring that added extra oomph to the situation. Now, yeah, you can go out there. There's tons and tons of life coaches out there all over. There's a life coach on every corner. But if there's a life coach on every corner that has walked the road that you're walking, if there's a life coach on every corner that has had the experience that you're experiencing right now, And there are life coaches on every corner that can say, you know what, Mom, I've been there. I know what that feels like. Mom, I know how to work, how to handle that. Or talk to the child. I know what it feels like to not have any friends. I know what it feels like to not have anybody to play with. I understand what it feels like when all I want is friends and nobody wants to be my friend because of how I look. I understand that from a first-hand experience. So you tell me, which life coach would you rather have? Would you rather have one that has the experience, or would you rather have one that just read the textbooks and can give you the knowledge from the textbooks versus having the hands-on experience? I have really enjoyed my experience here. I felt like a movie star today. I felt like I was on the actual set of a movie. I felt like I was in my own movie. Everyone was so helpful, courteous. Just the whole setup was so professional. Again, like I said, I felt like I was in a movie, like I was shooting the actual movie. They were so helpful. They were so considerate. They were patient. They were kind. They worked with me. Sometimes I don't see the best. So, they took in consideration of that. But yes, I had an awesome experience today. And I would do it again. I would do it again in a heartbeat.